Ladies and gentlemen, this is a monumental episode 50, 5
5-0.
of Who's Fighting. LT Cam G, how have you guys been?
Oh, love it. Good weekend out here, man. How your boys doing?
Busy, hard working man, but gotta get it in, get it how you live.
Gotta
Gotta
do what
get
you
it how you
can.
live. Gotta get it how you live. Um,
Yes,
on
sir.
my side, it's business as usual. You know, not business, life as usual. Kids, work, and the show. Just before we get into any of the show's normal cadence, we just want to be of respect to the sport that we love, which is boxing. And the last episode, as you guys can remember, people that watching this episode, and it's nothing for me to even laugh about, but the irony is when the episode ended, news hit the world of the passing away of a legend, a game changer, an icon, someone that was part of the passing of talent. I mean, there's so many things I could say about Big George, but fellas, I'll let you go first as we give Big George our tribute.
Man, I don't want to get too much into details, but we would be remiss not to mention the passing and just to show honor and respect. In my formative years, I want to say probably a toddler when he was finishing his second stint in the ring, and then but also getting to hear him ringside calling these fights. It was very similar to like when Charles Barkley is calling the fights. There was okay, so with Roy Jones being my GOAT, there was a Roy Jones fight, and I want to say this is forget whatever network it is, but Roy Jones was in there talking in the ring, and one of the announcers said, "George, you ever been in the ring with somebody that talked to you like that?" And George said, "Yeah, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now." But nah, man, just what he was able to do in the comeback and at 50 plus and recapturing the world heavyweight title, phenomenal. It once in a lifetime. There's been others that have spoken about it, and there'll be others who will attempt to do it. But if I'm not mistaken, he's the only one that ever actually did it. So, an anomaly.
Yeah, we just saw a couple years ago there was a video of George Foreman in the ring, in the gym hitting the heavy bag, and he just looks so strong, and in his 70s, he's 72 at the time, and you just guys like him, you see all your former fighters that maybe not aging as gracefully as you would like them to see, but George was out doing his thing and still in the gym, and man, someone I always reference in boxing and teaching, he had that kidney punch. He would get around the elbow and turn his hand down and boom. And I referenced that recently twice with some fighters, and then to hear the news, like, gave everything to the sport. LT was saying, like, I really did enjoy his commentary for the fights, and really try to absorb anything that guys like him, when they're speaking about boxing. So we lost a true legend, a true champion of the sport, and his legacy will live on.
It's a week later, and I don't know if we can say anything that ain't been said, but he legitimately crossed over generations.
Yeah,
like he fought in he really is the bridge in the gap, because he fought in the era of Muhammad Ali, and he fought in the era of Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Right.
So he really is a bridge in the gap. Like when you sit here and you think you're just able to reflect.
Right.
And then one of the adages that we always say, and I'll end this because we can go on and on. But one of the adages we always say is the last thing to go is power.
Right.
Man.
And all you have to do is point to George Foreman.
Right.
Just,
I wanted to add like my little 2 cents in this because George had a special place in my household. The first time I was ever introduced to boxing, my dad had a VHS tape in Uganda, Kampala, of Ali Rumble in the Jungle, and my dad's favorite fighter was Muhammad Ali. And I remember as a kid, I was kind of trained not to like George Foreman because he was looked at as the boogeyman, and Ali was the people's champion. And if you go back and watch that videotape, you have everybody in Zaire, Congo right now, Democratic Republic of Congo. They were screaming out in Lingala, a language, saying Ali Boumaye, which means Ali, kill him. They didn't like George. A quick history about George. I know it's a short time. We just have to, but let's respect this man's history. He was 19 when he won that Olympic gold medal. He was a child, and he had only been fighting for 2 years. And then he proceeded to becoming world champion in the heavy. He was a boogeyman as a young fighter. He was 23 when he was doing what he did to Joe Frazier. His life, of like LT said, he's like a chef. He transitions through so many generations. You have him with the Ali and the Joe Fraziers. You have him with the Mike Tyson, and you also have him with the Evander Holyfields and the Shannon Briggs of this world, because he prolonged his career. But I'll just complete this with, I have friends who lived in Houston that remember him, and these are younger people that don't remember who George Foreman was as a fighter. They remember him as the guy who used to preach outside. He was standing outside with the Bible and preaching on the road as an ex-world champion. I mean, this is before the George Foreman grill that made him a household name to people, that gave him a real new introduction and made him the multi-millionaire that he is until he's passing. But he is, and he was. But he has so many layers to his story that sometimes, when you see fighters like Deontay Wilder coming into the sport, like people that don't have the experience that they have, right? Like George didn't have the experience that Ali had, or Ken Norton, but George was just big and strong. And the Ali would say, yo, that guy they have the skill level that I have. I'll take him to deep waters, right? Ali was the first person that did that and changed George forever. And he became this religious guy. But not to even go into the historical facts of it, but he has a special place in my household because I remember watching that VHS in the 90s, even if I was not there when they were fighting in Zaire. But he is one of my first memories of boxing. So that Friday was just one of those very heavy moments for me. But RIP to a legend of the sport.
Well said.